All right, this is Algebra 2, Lesson 74. This is the second time I'm recording this video. It kind of cut off in the beginning and it just stopped working, just shut off. So, Lesson 74, keep in mind for the homework assignment, you only have 48 hours. After that 48 hours, it is a 0. So don't ask me weeks later saying, hey, can I go ahead and make up my missing assignments? You can't. Once they expire, and that's it. Before, it was because it was the ending of the grading period. Some of you are getting used to it. By now, you should get used to it, so there's no way you have to do it. Make sure you're doing it on time. I am trying to get in contact with the parents. If you're not doing it, I'm letting the parents know that they cannot make it up. So it's not something that you can grab. I just want them to know that you have to do it daily, and you only have 48 hours, so that's a 2-day mark. So that's a lot of time for you to finish your work. Also for the test, if you don't do it, I put zeros on your test, and that will affect your grade a lot. I did that last week, and I was putting zeros in for some of you that didn't do the test. So those are very, very important. All right, discriminant. We're finding the discriminant. If you look on your book to page 528, there is a quadratic formula. If you notice under the radical, there's a small expression there, and it's b squared minus 4ac. That number right there under the radical is going to make the biggest difference to solve for all of these here. If you use the equation b squared minus 4ac, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. B squared minus 4ac, if it's greater than 0, so it's a positive answer, you have a chance of having 2 real roots, meaning it's a whole numbers, they're not anything complicated. B squared minus 4ac, if your answer is equal to 0, you have 1 real root. If your answer is less than 0, you have 0 real roots, meaning you don't have real numbers. You end up with complex roots. Complex roots is when you use the quadratic formula and you end up with an answer like 2 over 3 plus or minus square root of 3 over 7i. That's considered complex. The I makes it complex. Example 1, we're going to go ahead and solve for these discriminants. We're not trying to solve and we're not trying to factor these numbers out. We're just trying to find the number of roots. So it's 2, 0, or 1. Example 1, we have this equation over here. We want to solve, sorry, I'm moving this over. We want to solve for the discriminant. Make sure when you're solving for the discriminant, it's in terms of this right here. So we're going to move this term over. So then we get 4x squared minus 20x plus 25 equals 0. You cannot add these two, they're not like terms, so therefore you end up with this. Then you're going to use the main equation for discriminants, b squared minus 4ac. Remember, a is a number in front of x squared, b is a number in front of x, c is the constant in the end. Always include the signs with it. So b squared is going to be negative 20. Negative 20 squared minus 4 times a times c. A is the number in front of x squared, that's 4. C is the constant, that's 25. And then you go ahead and simplify it. So you get negative 20 squared. This is equal to 400 minus 4 times 4 is 16 times 25. I think you end up with 400 as well. And your answer is 0. So that's not you factoring. That's not the answer what x is. This is just telling us since it equals to 0, you have 1 real root. Your homework, I'm going to be asking for how many real roots are there, 0, 1, or 2. B, so we have this equation there. It's in standard form already. So we're going to go ahead and solve for the discriminant. B is considered positive 7, so it's 7 squared, minus 4ac. A is a number in front of x squared. C is the constant, and that's negative 99. Always include the sign with it. 7 squared is 49 minus 4 times 2 times 99. We end up with negative 792. What I do is I bring the negative down and then I solve for the 3 numbers and when I'm multiplying it. I don't really include the negative to the 4. You can, but just make sure your signs match up. Here I have 49 minus negative 792, or 49 plus 792. And when I add those 2 numbers, I end up with 841. X does not equal 841. This is just an answer. And if we look over here in the chart, according to this, it's greater than 0. So there are 2 possible real roots in there. Last one, 3x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. It's in terms of the standard form, b squared minus 4ac. So b is 6 squared minus 4ac. A, number in front of the x squared, that's 3. C is the constant, positive 5. And then we go ahead and multiply. So we have 36 minus 4 times 3 times 5, and I end up with 60. My answer is negative 24. Here, according to our discriminants here, it's less than 0. If it's less than 0, there are no real roots. That means it's a complex answer. You're going to end up with a fancy fraction plus radical 5i. So you're going to have an I for your answer for this. Complex number. Now let's look at the problems here. You see this a lot in pre-calculus. That's where we use this all the time. It's finding the discriminants. We're not trying to find for what the x is or what y is. What we're doing is we're just solving for each of these and seeing how much of a possibility there is. Example 2, if you read that along with me, page 529. A player standing on a 10-foot hill. He kicks a ball straight up at a velocity of 55 feet per second. He hopes it goes above the ground, above the roof of a nearby building, which is 50 feet above the ground. The function of the height is that equation there. X is in terms of seconds, so I have that up there as well. Here it says use the discriminant to explain why the ball will reach the desired height. So here we're going to see if the ball is able to reach the desired height, and how we use that is using the discriminant. So here we have the number of feet. He wants to kick it. He wants to see if the ball will go up to 50 feet. Here, we're going to go ahead and plug it in y in place of 50. X, remember, is in place of seconds. So we're going to go ahead and use the discriminant to solve to see if he's able, if he kicks it, if it will go over the 50 feet mark, over the building. So now, b squared, this format is not in the standard form, so we're going to go ahead and move things around. That means subtracting 50, because we want everything on one side by itself. So then we end up with this. Now we can use it, minus 4ac. Alrighty, sorry about that. We're gonna go ahead and continue along. So here we have the equation, we have everything on one side, we have the discriminant formula, and we go ahead and solve. B squared is 55 squared minus 4ac. A, number in front of the x squared, it's negative 16. C is right here, it's negative 40. Now we go ahead and solve for it. 55 squared is right here, 3025 minus, I'm gonna put it nicer, and 4 times negative 16 times negative 40, you'll end up with positive 2,560. And now we go ahead and subtract the 2, and we end up with a positive answer of 465. 465 is not our answer. It's not telling us that it's going to go at 465 feet per second. Nothing like that. All of this is telling us is if we use the discriminant to solve for this equation, we end up with 2 possible solutions. What that means is when you factor and you have x minus 7 times x plus 3, you're entitled to 2 answers here. So here, according to this whole thing, according to the work here, this discriminant, the ball is going to go at 50 feet twice. So it's going to go over once and go over twice again. So this is your answer to show how. This is your work of you showing how it's going to pass over the 50 feet mark. Example 3. It says a homeowner has 120 feet of fencing material. She wants a dog to have 900 square feet of space in the pen. The equation is right there. Gives the width of the pen that meets these requirements. Use the discriminant, explain why these requirements cannot be met. So he has a certain number of fencing. He wants to see if he's able to provide the length of it for his dog. Now we go ahead and solve using discriminant. So we don't have to solve for him. We're trying to see if there's a possibility of that happening. Now we go ahead and solve for it. Get it in terms of ax squared plus by plus c, or bx plus c. So you get 60w minus w squared equals 900. You move the 900 to have it all together on one side. You end up with negative w squared plus 60w minus 900 equals 0. So I'm just putting it in order so I can easily find the discriminant. B squared minus 4ac is the formula. B is 60 squared minus 4 times a times c. A is negative 1, c is negative 900. So now we go ahead and solve for it. So this is example 3. 60 squared, 6 squared is 36, add the 2 zeros, minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 900, and that is a positive answer. And that's going to give you 3,600. When you add that together, you get 0. And when you get 0, if we look back at our 3 different types of numbers here, we have, when equals 0, we have one possibility of it having a real root. So therefore here, there's only one possible way that he's able to make the fence for his dog. So there could be multiple ways, but in his case, it's only one possible way with one possible measurement, but we're not looking for the measurement. We're not looking for the height of anything. We're just seeing if it's possible or not, and how many ways is it possible. Last one, the last equation. A frame maker, he has 50 inches of framing to make a picture frame. He wants to frame a picture that has an area of 160. The equation there gives a width of the frame that meets these requirements. Use the discriminant to explain why these requirements cannot be met. So they're saying it's not going to be possible, but we're going to see why. Here, with the equation, we're going to go ahead and get everything on one side. We're going to have 25w minus w squared equals 160. Subtract the 160, so we have everything on one side. So now we have negative w squared plus 25w minus 160 equals 0. So I'm moving things around on one side. I completely move this over from one side of the equation, therefore it has to be opposite signs. Now, b squared minus 4ac. We're going to find the discriminant, see if it's possible or if it's not possible. Key thing is they told you why it's not. We're going to see why it's not able to work out. So b squared is 25 squared minus 4 times a times c. A is considered negative 1. Negative w squared is a number in front of it. C is your constant, which is negative 160. Now, solving for it, you get 625 for 25 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 160. I know here I'm going to have a positive answer in the end. Oh, positive answer when I multiply these out, and I get 640. And when I subtract them all, I get negative 15, so it's not possible. The reason why, the discriminant does not work out. It's less than 0, it's a negative number. There's no real roots. There's no way he can actually make the picture frame for his family. All right, if you guys have any more questions, make sure you go down there on the link or the email me out. Again, I can do FaceTiming, different things like that. Take your homework and take your test seriously because those are your actual grades. I'm not counting your homework assignments as 100 for your homework. What you get is what you get. So work diligently. Bye.